Something I found interesting. I was listening to another interview you did where you were talking about your view experience, and you said that you struggled a lot during that time with your confidence. What were you most insecure about?
Politics, talking back, getting my opinion out there. I came from, a very strict religious background. Number one, we didn't debate. Number two, you accepted everything that people said. So a lot of times Barbara would say, "Why do you feel this way?" And a lot of times my answer was, "I don't know. That's what my pastor said." We were taught not to ask questions. So, coming to work, and then I was also, from growing up in my family, when your elders said something, you did not talk back to them. You didn't say but. And so now sitting at this table with these very, very accomplished women in their field, to say, no, I have a different opinion or I disagree with you, was very hard for me. I was not very confident when I started the show, and, stayed at politics. I did not vote when I was a Jehovah's Witness. We weren't involved in the political landscape. So now I joined a show where Barack Obama is running, John McCain is running. People have different opinions about them both. And I'm like, I don't even know what the three branches of government are. I had to just learn politics. And it was very hard for me because I got into a lot of trouble. I said things. When I first started, I remember they said to me, "Black women love you, Sherri. You like a breath of fresh air. They love that you're on the show. You're funny." I'm not gonna lie, maybe 5 months in, Bill Getty and Barbara Walters brought me downstairs. They were like, "Every black woman in America hates you." And I was like, "What did I do?" He literally, and Bill Getty said to me, "They think you are the dumbest, most ignorant ghetto girl they've ever met in their life." When I tell you, I was devastated. And that's when Barbara said, "You gotta read, Sherri. You gotta be able to explain why you believe the way you believe. You can't just say, well, because that's what I learned in church." And that was that learning curve of falling of Bill Maher. Bill Maher said, a stick could replace me. Um, Bill O'Reilly called me a pinhead. Charlemagne the God talked about me. Who's the radio? Howard Stern. It was a very painful period of growing and learning publicly about things which I never talked about: politics, why I believe what I believe, standing up for my opinion. Now I can do it. I talk politics all day long. I love it. But doing that publicly and falling was very painful. And then I have a woman named Barbara Walters who every day came in my dressing room and got on me. I cried for 3 years. And I tell people this: for 3 years, I cried on The View. But it was the best experience I ever had, because in that pain of falling, I grew and I learned how to be confident. Because Barbara Walters said to me, um, if you don't speak up, I'm going to eat you up and you're going to get left behind. So she was not into coddling at all.
So, how did you eventually, because that's a lot to take on and to absorb. And as you said, you're making your mistakes before millions of people. A lot of people wouldn't recover from that. How did you eventually find the confidence that you needed?
I think it was by falling, because when you fall, you have to sit back and reassess everything. And because you know, and we were a live show, and there were so many times that I wanted to go back and and fix what I said. And Barbara said, if we apologize for everything we said, this would be called the apology show. You're not apologizing. And it took me making these mistakes to go and say, Sherri, you got to learn about politics, because this show is becoming very, very political. So you need to go beyond what you think you know. And I did. I started reading books. I started learning about the government. When we would talk about different things about, oh, wow, I'm trying to think of a topic that got me in a lot of trouble. Being gay. I knew what I had learned in church as a girl, and I knew what I had been taught. But it was like, this is not aligning with what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. So you got to speak up and stop going, well, that's just what I learned and that's what somebody told me. So the failures made me go back and say, how do I get better? How do I do this better? Not speaking up. When John McCain came on, We got a lot of publicity from that show. I didn't say anything because they told, my question was number 7, and everybody kept jumping in, or my question was number 3, but everybody kept jumping in, and I got upset because I had a little temper tantrum because everybody kept interrupting me. And Barbara Walters said, okay, all of that, the good girl thing you doing, the little crying you doing, stop it. You got to learn to speak up. You got to learn to, interrupt and insert yourself. And so people can see you. And that made me go back and say, Sherri, you got to really work on your confidence. You got to know you're worthy. What is coming out of your mouth is worth saying, and it means something. And that's how I got my confidence.
Well, I just watching as a viewer, everybody knows The View is not for the faint of heart if you're on that show, and so that's quite a training ground to receive. But being the fact that you're a stand-up comedian, surely you had experience with hecklers.
Oh, all the time. But heckling is different from what you get on The View. On The View, the backlash you can get on The View from saying things affects your career, and so a heckler, I can deal with the heckler on stage because it's very quick, it's very in the moment. The View, with it being live, and you deal with hecklers, it don't go out there to the world. The View, you say one thing, oh my gosh, then you got people picketing outside the show, people writing in wanting you to be fired, people talking about it on the air, it being retweeted and going out into the social media stratosphere. It was so many times where I would cry and go, but gosh, if they just knew my heart. But those times where I fell really made me go, what do I think about life? What do I know? What does love mean to me? And so dealing with hecklers, that's the easy part on stage. I don't have too many hecklers now. I think I get on stage and people see me and they know I'm gonna make you laugh, I promise. But the hecklers that I got from The View were unlike any other hecklers ever. I learned that was my training ground. I'm gonna tell you, it is not.
Well,
it is not. When you say not for the faint of heart, but I learned, and I learned really, really wonderful lessons. And despite all of that, it was the best 7 seasons of my life. Even my voice being as deep as it is came from Barbara Walters, because when I started that show, I talked like this all the time. And she was the one who taught me confidence, and my voice got deeper, and I sound like a man half the time. So now when I go on blind dates, it's so much harder trying to make my voice go, "Oh, you did that? You worked there? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Tell me more." That's so hard because my voice is down here. Like, you better really, really. But yeah, it was the best experience I've ever had, even with all the mistakes and the falls and the tears, is why I am who I am today.
well, I think this is part of your transition into auntiness, the deep voice. That was really part of your transition because if you got an auntie, I'm sure when they were younger, the voice was a little lighter, but after some lived experience, after going through some things, they like, let me tell you about something.
You you really do. And doing this show, that's why I know, even though it's been a dream of mine for 18 years, I wasn't ready. If that dream had come to pass 10 years ago, it would have been on and off because I wasn't ready. I didn't even know who I was. And that's what The View did for me. It really helped me find out who I was. And I thank Barbara for that. I thank her for how hard she was on me. Because when I sit in that chair, it's easy for me to say no. When people bring me ideas and I don't agree with them or it doesn't align with who I am, I know my audience. So when they bring me something, oh, we got a video of a girl pouring beer all over her chest at the Wimbledon. That's what they gave me. You should show this video. It'll go viral. No, I'm not showing that because it's not my audience and they don't want to see that. That's dumb. I got women who are entrepreneurs. I got single mothers. I got women. I know exactly who my audience is, and I don't have a problem saying no. And I don't have a problem standing by what I say. Sometimes people go, "Oh, we don't know if you should say that." If I say it, I meant it. And that definitely came from The View. So when I sit in that chair and I go, if you don't know what I'm talking about, ask your mama. She'll tell you.